Hi guys, and welcome to this video. I hope you're all doing well. So guys, I have made the operative decision to come back with more interesting, not even interesting, but I want to do more kind of, interesting, insightful videos about religion, about Judaism, etc, etc. And as I was trying to think today, right, what topics do I want to talk about, and what things do people actually not know about Judaism outside of the Jewish community? And initially I thought, okay, I'm going to do a video about modesty and all of this, and I did one ages ago on my channel, which is I removed, but I thought I could delve more in depth into that. And then I remembered, guys, that something I've never seen any kind of videos about on social media, on YouTube, etc., is about memberships in Judaism. And yeah, I decided that I want to do a video about this because it's something that is not really spoken about outside of the community. Now, prior to the end of 2023, personally, I'd never heard of Jewish membership. I didn't know what it was, and I discovered this at the end of 2023 when I started to actively follow Judaism. Although I'm ethnically Jewish, I only started actively practicing Judaism in November 2023. And I started going to different synagogues. In the end, between November 2023 and March 2024, I ended up going to 5 different synagogues until I found one which I felt like was a fit for me. Because I'd never actually been into a synagogue, it's like, guys, if you're from the Jewish culture, it's like, you know the basics, even if you don't follow the religion, but there are things that can still take you by surprise. And what happened is when I actually went to the very first synagogue, and this was within the week that I found out my grandmother had passed, so I was in a very not good mindset at the time, and I really latched on and clung to Judaism. That first synagogue was, I think they were progressive, so they were quite relaxed in their approach, etc. But I didn't find them very welcoming. The rabbi, at the end of the 45-minute service, she just left after 5 minutes. Like, she was like, I'm in a hurry, and she literally lived about 5 minutes around the corner. And she still left. You're like someone who is supposed to be a community religious leader, and you just ducked out. Because this was the first time I attended synagogue, that didn't make good impression on me. And she was someone who was very to the point. And I said to a few members at the end of the synagogue, like why is she left after 5 minutes? I said to a few members, like, she's literally just left 5 minutes after the service finished, and it's Shabbat. And she was very cold as well. She wasn't like a kind of warm, kind of friendly kind of person. I said to someone, I feel like she's a bit cold. And someone said, oh, with everything going on with October 7th and all of this, the rabbi, she's probably stressed out. And I thought, but you're the community leader. You're supposed to help the community to feel stronger in the times of need. Like, yes, you are human and everything, but my first impression of the synagogue, I was like, this is not what I was hoping for, basically. Anyway, I decided to go back the following week. So the following week on the Friday after work. So I thought, let me give this another go because, I don't know how this is supposed to work. So the second time I went back, I think I was sitting, it's basically like 2 sides and then an aisle in the middle. And I was sat on the right hand side, and then there were people on the left. And this synagogue, there wasn't a lot of people. Like, sometimes there would be like 15 people, 20 people max. Like, it was like a small synagogue, right? Anyway, this lady comes in, and she was like 20-30 minutes late for the start of the service. And I'm someone, guys, this is just my opinion, right? But like, firstly, I hate being late for anything, work, appointments, anything. But like, when it's a religious venue and a religious service, I find it so disrespectful when people are walking in the middle of the service. They're 40 minutes late, 30 minutes late, whatever. Like, I don't like that. It's like, you knew the service was coming, and with Shabbat, it's every single Friday and Saturday, so you know what times the services are, and you still rocked up 30 minutes late. Anyway, she walks in the middle of the service, and because this was like a progressive synagogue, it's kind of like you can wear what you want. You can wear jeans, trainers, you can dress smart, you can literally wear whatever you want. Like, they didn't have any kind of restrictions, like dress code wise, etc. So she comes in, she was kind of wearing more traditional clothing. So anyway, she was wearing a long black skirt to the ground, a long black sleeve top, fitted top, and I don't think she had a wig on, but I was like, okay. When this was kind of a very relaxed synagogue, she turned to face me when I was on the other side of the room, and she started literally looking me up and down. And this was the second time I was in the synagogue, yeah. And in that synagogue, I was the only non-white Jew. And I just thought, even though I'm quite pale, and I thought, that is so rude. Like, I would never do that to someone. And if I'm going there every week, or I go there all the time, I would never treat someone new like that. It was so rude. And even at that point, although I wasn't in a good frame of mind because my grandmother had passed and what have you, my mind was still such that I knew this person is quite rude. So that was the second time I went to the synagogue, right? Anyway, that was on the Friday. The Monday, so it'd been 2 times I'd been to the synagogue, so over 2 weeks. That Monday, I went back to work and I got this random email in my inbox. This is where I'm coming to the membership thing, guys. There is a sort of link to it, and I'm going to explain what the memberships are. But basically, I got this random email in my normal email inbox on Monday morning around 10 a.m. I opened it and I thought, what is this? And it was from the synagogue, right? And it was like the administrator for the synagogue, and I'm going to put an image on screen so you guys can see how it is as well, right? And basically, there was a couple of emails, but the first one was like, oh, are you thinking of becoming a member? And bearing in mind, I'd only been to the synagogue twice in my life, and it was this synagogue for 45 minutes each time. Barely anyone had engaged with me, like communicated with me, asked me if I'm all right. There was a couple of people, but yeah, it wasn't good. And then I got this email saying, do you want to become a member? And I thought, what is a member? Like, I don't understand what this is. And this is where this whole membership thing started, right? So I had to like research it online. I went to their website, and then I realized, oh, right, when you start attending synagogue and you're Jewish, you have to start paying money, and that's what they call a membership. And if you're not Jewish, but you attend synagogue, so for example, you're Jewish and your partner is not Jewish, they would be referred to as a friend, and they can still donate money to the synagogue, even though they're not Jewish. Now, I've mentioned it in previous videos on my channel, guys, that on my mother's side, it's my mother's side of the family, they're Ashkenazi Jewish. My maternal grandfather is Jewish, my grandmother wasn't, and the bloodline got broken. And that's why I'm considered as ethnically Jewish, but by some people not religiously Jewish as per the Torah, right? So this synagogue, they knew this information because my grandmother had passed literally within those 2 weeks. And I'd explained, like, when you go to synagogue and if you're ethnically Jewish, they're always going to ask you who it is that's Jewish in your family. If you have a Jewish surname, if you don't have a Jewish surname, they're going to ask you why. And they ask you a lot of questions. And sometimes these questions are really intrusive. And quite frankly, they're borderline rude sometimes, depending on how they're asked, right? So anyway, they knew all this information. My grandmother had passed. I was in a very, very vulnerable mental state, right? Anyway, Monday morning, sorry guys, get back to this. I received this email in my inbox saying, do I want to become a member? So I've gone on the website now to research what is membership. Because I thought, I don't know what these people are talking about, but let me look this up before I discuss anything else with these people. I go on the website and then I see this thing about paying a membership, which is like, it says that you pay an annual amount to the synagogue, but it didn't write the amount. And then it says that you pay this amount to do what's called Tikkun Olam. And Tikkun Olam in Judaism basically means like healing the world. So like you're giving this money to the synagogue to support the synagogue, so it can do repairs on it and things like that, and run courses. And that money is also donated to charitable causes. Anyway, I thought, right, fine, fair enough. Because I didn't really know much about memberships literally at that point. And I'll be honest, guys, on 90% of synagogue websites, they will never write what the actual membership fee is. And that can vary depending on if you're single, a couple, an elderly person, a student, a full-time professional, It will be calculated as well, sometimes based on your salary and what type of profession you have. Like, it's so in depth, to be honest, right? And then if you can't afford it, or you can't afford the amount that they set, then the rabbi has to go through your salary with you and your bank statements and decide on an amount that you would give as a member to the synagogue, right? It's so, honestly, it's so intrusive. Anyway, so at this point I'd Googled it, but as I said, on the websites, 90% will not put what the fee is there. And quite frankly, I feel like they don't put, the ones who don't put the fee on there, they know, I feel like that they almost know that puts people off becoming a member, because the fees can be very high. So with this particular synagogue, the fees, I'll put as I said, the email on the screen, guys, I think were £563 annually. And that money, you pay all of that in one go to them, like by bank transfer. It's not like monthly or whatever. You pay that all up front. The second email, when I started asking her what are the fees, she was saying it's £563. You want to basically become a member. Now, bearing in mind, guys, I just want to reiterate this, that my grandmother had just passed. I was in a very, very bad mental state. I'd literally transitioned into Judaism like that week when I attended the synagogue, which was the first synagogue I'd ever been into, and I'd only at that point been to the synagogue twice for 45 minutes. The rabbi had not engaged with me more than about 2 minutes, and you're asking me for £563 for a membership, to pay that up front. I showed this email to one of my colleagues that day, about 2 hours later at midday, and I just asked her opinion, and I explained what had gone on, and she turned to me and she's like, Jazz, that seems like some cult thing. And that's immediately what I thought, because I was like, is it me? Am I confused? And she's like, this is not normal. Like, even the way the email was just not nice. And when I said, no, I'm not thinking to sign up as a member yet, the email response I got was just, okay. That's it. That was the email. No, not kind regards, nothing. It was just so blunt. Anyway, I went to that synagogue the third week after that. So the third time I thought, let me give this one more chance, right? Because I'm someone that when I start trying to do something, I don't just want to abandon ship immediately. I think, like, let me try to keep an open mind, even if this is a really bad experience. So the third time I went, the following Friday, I think it was, basically, by that point, I'd bought a prayer book, which we call a Siddur. And because at that time, I wasn't too sure what prayer book I needed, because again, depending on what denomination you have, you're conservative, orthodox, reform, progressive, whatever, we use different types of prayer books actually. So I wasn't sure, and I'd actually bought one, but I forgot to bring it with me, but I had a screenshot of the cover of the prayer book. So I went there, and this woman, she'd been attending this synagogue for like 10 years or something. She was a bit elderly. She was kind of like one of these like housekeeper kind of people that takes care of the synagogue or something, right? So I asked her, oh, I've bought this Siddur prayer book, but I don't know if this is the right one for this denomination, as in progressive Judaism, for this type of synagogue that I'm attending. Would you be able to tell me? So I showed her a picture, and she's like, I think this is an Orthodox one. And then it was like, go and look in the library, and they just had this bookcase in the synagogue. They just put loads of different books. And she basically told me to go bookshelf, get my phone, and just screenshot random pages of the prayer book. And then that's how I could do my prayers, basically. And bearing in mind, guys, there was over 500 pages in this prayer book. And I thought, what? Like, that time I was 2 weeks in or 3 weeks into Judaism. I thought, what person tells someone who, even though I'm ethnically Jewish, who I'm asking you for help and questions and what prayers I should do and how do I do it, you're telling me to go and screenshot random pages of a 500-page prayer book, which is like half in Hebrew. What am I supposed to do? So at that point, guys, I thought, like, honestly, is this like Scientology or something? Is this a cult where you attend twice, they're asking you to pay nearly £600 already to sign up to God knows what, right? So I thought, do you know what? I need to find another synagogue. And this is how this whole synagogue journey, where I started going to all different synagogues, started, because I was like, there's things I don't like in all of them. And it's not just because I'm a fussy person or I'm on this journey or whatever. It's because the things that go on are weird, and this is not how you welcome someone to a synagogue, right? But it took me a good 5-6 months to understand that. Anyway, the second one I went to was initially okay. They also had a membership process, and theirs was only £30 a month, and it was monthly. So I thought, oh, you know, this could work for me. And it sounds so sad, guys, to think that when you attend a synagogue, you're going to at some point be asked to become a member if you are Jewish, and you have to start paying out all this money. It's like not by force, but part of you feels obligated because religiously it's what you're supposed to be doing, right? So I thought, okay, great, it's only £30 a month, so I can afford that with my salary. Like, the whole thing was so ridiculous, this membership process I went through, right? Anyway, that one was going okay. But then at that synagogue, I realised people don't keep kosher at all. Nothing is kosher. Then I came across this guy, I mentioned it in my previous video before this one, that was, you know, supporting the idea of killing people in Gaza. And he was openly saying things like that at the synagogue. And I think I was the only person who was shocked by it. And at that point, I thought, no, I'm never going back to this place. So then I went to a few more synagogues. And 2 of them had rabbis that were just, it was just not it. One of them was an Orthodox rabbi, and he was literally almost about to put me into a sign-up process to become an Orthodox Jew as well. I thought, honestly, it was crazy. And it was just insane. So then after all this, I started to research membership processes more, went on to all different synagogue websites, not just the ones I visited, but loads of different ones, because I wanted to see what is the variation in this membership. What do you get for a Jewish membership, right? So basically, I kind of worked out across these websites that, as I said, 90% of them will tell you, obviously they'll all tell you that there's a membership, but 90% of them won't tell you what the membership fees are. And they will tell you, though, that they do vary depending, again, on different specifications. If you're single, if you're married, if you're a student, if you're a professional, all these kind of things will affect how much you will pay. So anyway, basically, the lowest amount I've seen for a membership is £30, and that's like a month. So over a year, it's like, what, £150, whatever. I'm not good at maths, bearing in mind I study accountancy, but anyway, it's not too bad. It's like literally the price of a gym membership, isn't it? £30 a month. So I thought, okay, that's not bad. Then I ended up finding, guys, top end of Jewish memberships. Top price I found was like, I think £1,100 or £1,200 annually for a married couple, or for a single person, £700 to £800 annually for one person. And again, guys, you would pay this amount up front. So if you're a married couple, for example, you would pay that £1,200 up front. If you're a single person, you would pay that £700 up front there and then. And it's like, who's got money for that? Or even paying £300 quarterly or whatever. Who, in the times we live in, has got money in their salary right now for that? Guys, like, this money, it does go to support the synagogue. It goes to courses as well. So like Judaism courses, outings that the synagogue might do and plan, meals at the synagogue and things like that. So when we have Shabbat services, and there are other types of services because there's different holy days in Judaism, the synagogues normally will arrange food after the services and like little snacks and things like that. We call that kiddush. And the money goes to things like that, and then it will be donated to charities. So it could be to food banks, it could be to help homeless people, it could be for all different things, and not necessarily just Jewish community. One synagogue I went to, that was actually the very first one, and that was the only good thing I learned at that synagogue, was that they were helping people who had come into the country illegally, so illegal immigrants like fleeing war, and they were helping them to get housing, get clothes, get everything, and the money was going to that. And actually that was really good, but still, like £600 up front. It was a real battle in my head, guys, because I felt like even my colleagues said to me, and friends said to me, like, why should you have to pay this money to go to the synagogue? Now, being a member, as I said earlier, it's not compulsory. It is actually a choice, but there is expectation that you will become a member, because that's what you're supposed to be doing as a Jew. As in, it's not written in the Torah. It's something that is expected by the community, basically, almost. Now, we do, as Jews, we're supposed to donate 10% of our income, or a percentage of our income. That can be done by basically having a Jewish membership, right? However, we have something called tzedakah, and that's, where you donate 10% of your income, and that you can just give that to the charity of your choice, or give it to the synagogue, who will give it to a very specific charity or whatever, right? So there are different ways to do this. And it's not because you're not a member that you can't go to synagogue and that, but for example, there might be activities, so like Hebrew lessons, Judaism lessons, or all different things, certain dinners they do and things like that. You wouldn't be able to partake unless you are a member, for example. Or actually, there are synagogues where you can partake. So my one is actually like that, where you just pay a one-off fee, like £20, £30, and then you attend the dinner or whatever. So actually, mine will allow you to do that, but others they won't unless you're a member, for example. So it has some restrictions like that. And then they have this option, I mentioned it earlier, called a friend. So you're either in the synagogue, usually a member or a friend, or you're neither. So a friend, as I mentioned earlier, I think I said it earlier, is someone, for example, who is not considered Jewish. So that could be someone who's not ethnically Jewish, religiously Jewish, but they're in a relationship with a Jew, or they're married to a Jew, for example. They would be referred to as a friend, and they also have the option to donate money and have a membership with the synagogue, but they have what's called a friend membership, which means you're not classified as a Jewish member of the synagogue. So it's like asking you to give money, but we still don't consider you a Jew. And it's like, well, why should you be expected to donate money to a religion and a community that is not actually your community? Also, when you go through a Jewish conversion, basically there are fees to pay, and these lead into the membership as well. So basically you would pay the fee to the Jewish law court, that's the Bet Din, and that's whether you're Reform, Conservative like me, Orthodox, whatever, there's always a fee to pay. And usually this fee is, I tend to find it's always around £50. It's actually not bad, like I feel. And that's for the kind of administrative processing of documents, the Jewish law court, the Bet Din reviewing your application and stuff. And I want to say, when it's Reform or Conservative Judaism, I feel like more than 90% of the time, if not more, the application will be accepted. When it's Orthodox Judaism, it's a bit more strict and stringent, but other types it's a bit more relaxed. So you know, okay, you've spent £50 and your application is going to go through the Bet Din, it's fine. Then you start going through the conversion process, which can take 1 to 3 years. In that time, you would take Judaism classes, you would take Hebrew classes, this is whatever denomination you convert to, and you have to pay for those classes. Now, I found in Reform Judaism, actually sometimes they'll do them for free, they won't charge. However, in Conservative Judaism, there tends to be a charge, and that could be, I'd say, anything from £150 to £200, but that will cover the whole year of having Hebrew and Judaism classes every single week. Which, to be fair, again, is not bad when you break it down monthly, actually. And then in Orthodox Judaism, I feel like they add on a lot more of these sessions, which then becomes a lot more expensive. So you've got those costs. Once you complete the conversion after 1 to 3 years, when the Jewish law court have, signed off your conversion, and if you've passed, then that's also expected then that you would become a member of that synagogue. And this is where you start paying this annual or quarterly membership fee to the synagogue. And I feel like sometimes, because it's so expected, even though they won't tell you must be a member in this, you feel uncomfortable if you're not. Now, with the synagogue I'm with, I don't feel, and I've never felt when I've attended it, in a situation where I have to do anything. Like, they've spoken to me about a conversion, even though I'm ethnically Jewish, because I want to do a religious conversion, but they understand that I understand how that works, And the synagogue I go to, people are really respectful. They don't speak to you like you're an idiot, and they understand what you understand and what you don't understand. And I haven't been to the synagogue for months because of my anxiety disorder, and they respect that. And I told my rabbi I need to put the conversion on hold. My rabbi has always told me, Jasmine, you can attend the synagogue whenever you want. If you want to come for Shabbat in 6 months, in 10 months, whenever. And we don't have to do the conversion. I can do start the conversion process whenever I want. I'm not under any pressure. But I feel like sometimes in certain synagogues with certain rabbis and certain members, there's this kind of like sense of pressure. And I feel like part of that comes from the community in those particular synagogues, and this expectation that is set, and also depending on how the rabbi is and how he conducts that kind of community, it affects that. I feel like the fact I ended up finding this synagogue, which was the 5th one I actually ended up at, I'm very lucky. And even the way they discuss conversion with me, because it is different because I'm ethnically Jewish already, so technically I am a Jew still, they're very respectful. Like, it's like when I mentioned the passing of my grandmother and they asked me the experiences I had before in other synagogues and everything, they understood that that's not normal what's gone on, and they explained to me and clarified it that is not what is supposed to go on. The synagogue I go to now, they've never ever asked me to become a member, ever. And when I discussed conversion, I discussed everything. This is when they discussed it with me. It's not them discussing it with me and then me responding. It's me that's brought up this topic and what am I doing and what's going on and all of this kind of thing. And for me, that's how it should be. So even this synagogue will have a membership, but then I know if I do end up becoming a member, they know where the line is. It's like you could be going to the synagogue for 10 years or 2 years or 3 years. You're not obliged to be a member. It's an expectation that the synagogue sets for you, basically. So in the synagogue I'm in, I'd say there's more than 90% chance I will become a member. But that's because they don't conduct themselves like the local piggy bank or something for Judaism. They have respect. They conduct themselves well. You can see where the money goes. You can see what people do. It's clear. Other synagogues, I feel like sometimes it's a sales process to get as many memberships signed up as possible to get more money for the synagogue. And I don't feel that's right. And that's why, guys, there are things which people think they know about Jewish community and Judaism. And this is why I always say the culture is so confounded with the religion the way we are. And because you could be Jewish ethnically, religiously, through the bloodline, there are different ways to be Jewish. There's not one way. It's not just you're religiously Jewish. There's other ways. And there are certain things that are kept so in the community, like that I refer to as so insular, that people outside of the Jewish community have never heard of these things. Like, my colleagues and my friends only know what a Jewish membership is because I've discussed it like this with them. But other people I've come across, they've never heard of this. They don't know what it is. It's never discussed. Like, I've never heard another Jew discuss this before, as I said, on social media or YouTube. But in my opinion, there are some things where it's important to be aware of them. If someone, for example, is about to go through a conversion to Judaism or considering it, they need to consider this as well, because this is a financial commitment. And some people might think, oh, there's no cost. Like, I've met people who think there's no cost to do a conversion to Judaism. But there is a cost. It's not just you attend, you convert when you want, and that's it. There's a weekly commitment for classes you need to attend. There is a financial implication. Like, it's like a whole process. And when you're going through the conversion, it's like at the end, it's like taking an exam after 1 to 3 years. Like, it's a whole process and it's quite intensive. So I feel like, especially from the financial aspect, people should be aware of these things. And I feel like there's no reason that this information shouldn't be made available, because if an institution is doing things in a correct manner and declaring its taxes and everything, then you should share this information that you charge fees to people that attend your religious institution. From my actual perspective of memberships, guys, you can see there is a good side and a bad side. There's a side where money is used to help charities and do very good things. And then there's that side where it's like sales. It's selling insurance policies or something. Like, it becomes like a job for the synagogue to keep selling these memberships. And that is the not so nice side. However, I feel like if you attend a synagogue that is good and have a rabbi that is good, the membership does make sense. If you don't attend a good synagogue and don't have a good rabbi, the memberships make no sense. And you know, it's like when you would donate to charity, like if you yourself, you're not religious or whatever, doesn't matter, but you decide to donate to charity, you want to know where that money is going, right? So for me, how I see it is, if I have a membership, I want to see and I want to know where the money is going. What are you doing with it? Why are you asking me for X amount? Why is it set at that amount, actually? Especially in the times we live in. Why do you need to see my bank statements? Why do you need to know my salary? Like, this is very intrusive information. And quite frankly, guys, I feel like I've only ever had this happen, actually, amongst other Jews and in the synagogue, where people approach you when you're new and they feel comfortable to ask you, what's your job? How old are you? Are you married or not? Do you have kids or not? What's your profession? Where do you live? What are your working hours? How often will you be attending synagogue? And it's like, I've only known you for 2 seconds, and why do you feel comfortable to ask me such intrusive questions? There are some people who know how to do it in a very polite way in synagogues and when they communicate with people. And then there are people that they literally do it like it's a police interrogatory, like 24 hours in police custody, like that TV show on Channel 4. They literally interrogate you like that. It's like, I've known you for 2 minutes. You don't need to know my business. You don't need to know how much I earn. That's not, do you know what I mean? It's like, God knows, Hashem knows, you do not need to know all my business. And I feel like sometimes there's that kind of like, in the community it can be very good, and then other times people get involved in other people's business and try to find out too much about them. It's like, why are you so nosy for? Stop being so intrusive. Have some manners. I'm going to be very upfront with you guys and say that there are synagogues that have been investigated. This is in the last 2-3 years, actually. And there are rabbis that were arrested that were doing illegal practices and that had prison sentences. There was one, I think, at the end of 2023 and one at the beginning of 2024, and they were leading major synagogues in London, and they'd been leading those synagogues for like 15 years or something. And imagine that everyone that was attending there was a member and donating all this money. And the person who was leading the synagogue, the rabbi, was doing all these illegal practices. And these two rabbis at these two different synagogues, that, you know, whatever, the things that they were doing illegally, which I don't even want to say what they are, to be honest, because they're disgusting. They're things which are very, very, how can I say, it's very shocking crimes. It's not like, oh, okay. I mean, even doing something like fraud is not good, but these crimes are beyond something like fraud, etc. It's beyond. It was very shocking. And this is why I always think, right, if I'm going to sign up to a membership at a synagogue, I need to know who is my rabbi, what is their whole background, what is their education, like everything, and see their transparency with me. Because, yeah, when you see there are rabbis that have gone to prison now for the next 15 years, you think, right, you were doing the Shabbat service every week, and you were committing crimes every week, and that's why you're now in prison for 15 years, and I've been paying you a £700 membership every year. For what? What were you doing with my money? Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave the membership video here. Please feel free to leave any comments down below. If you've got any questions about this membership process, or anything like that, please do let me know. Hopefully I've been clear. I tried to be as transparent as I can and show the good side and the bad side of memberships, in my opinion. Of course, these are my views, not everyone's views. But please feel free to leave any questions down below. If you've also got suggestions for other videos, or there's something that you've heard of in Judaism that you want to know about, but you don't know much about, but you want me to elaborate on it as well, it can be on anything in the religion. Please leave that suggestion down below, and then I can see if I can make a video on it as well.